Hello teachers and welcome to Give Me 5 Book 1 Unit 3. This is our MiniTUT for Lesson 1 and that means vocabulary. Alright, just to remind ourselves, here are the two pages that we're going to be focusing in on, and what we're learning about is body parts, and the authors have chosen to use the circus as a backdrop to teach the topic of body parts. Now, something important to realize is that almost all human beings only have one mouth, only have one head, okay? And only have one nose. However, with Give Me 5 Book 1, when the kids are so young, when our students are so young, and when we're actually only on Unit 3, what our objectives are is to help our students understand the singular and plural. So they need to know head and they need to know heads. They need to know toe and they need to know toes. Unfortunately, very seldom do we say, my head's hurt, but we might say, our toes hurt. So the meaning is that we need to figure out a way to be able to encourage our students to use these words in different sentence patterns because our objective is correct enunciation of these words. So it's something to keep in the back of your mind, and I'm now going to show you some cool tricks and tips on how to get there. Alright, so I'm going to start off by throwing my words up on the board, and I'll write down now H-E-A-D, and the kids will then say head, L-E-G, leg, F-O-O-T, foot, T-O-E, toe, arm. Okay, as you go through it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, alright, team number 1, you guys those 3 words, 1, 2, 3. Team number 2, these 3 words, 1, 2, 3. Okay, you get the general idea. Now the other thing as well is you just want to switch it up a little bit because maybe the kids get a little bit bored, so you know, you could do it in a team, you could do it individually, it is up to you. Now these words are not particularly difficult to pronounce. For Give Me 5 Book 1, I mean, the kids' general ability should be okay, but yeah, if it's not, just do it a couple of times until you're satisfied that the pronunciation is good enough. Now we're going to move on to the next 5 words, and you can do the same kind of thing. You write it on the board, and then the students will then shout out as you're writing it along, and then you will do some pronunciation games, maybe this for this team over here, this for this team over here, etc. Okay, so it's easy enough to understand. Now notice I've done something, and that is I've taken the root of the word. In the book they wrote down legs, but I've written down leg. In the book they wrote down feet, but I wrote down foot. Now the reason for that is because I want the kids to be able to apply this to a certain context. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, alright boys and girls, I want one head. And so I'll say, boys and girls, look at me. Say a head. And all the kids will then shout out, a head. Good. A leg. Good. A foot. You get the point, right? And so as I write down the kids will then shout it out, and then I'll draw the picture. An arm. You don't have to spend too much time teaching and an. I believe that the kids would know that difference by now. An ear. And so you build up your picture. Now what we're doing is we are actually preparing our kids to understand what's going to happen. And here's a finger over there. Now also notice that the finger is not attached to a hand, in which case then you have to teach boys and girls, say a hand, and the kids will then say a hand. You get the point, right? So long story short is, here is a monster and we are building up this monster as we go along. Okay, it should be very funny. I think the kids will really have a good time with it. The teacher has drawn this monster on the board, and once they've got the concept, you can just erase it because we are now going to move on to the next part of it. Alright, boys and girls, now we're going to do plural, and we're going to do ears, legs, feet, eyes, toes, and fingers. And then you just add to your monster over there. You'd say 3 eyes, whatever, 2 fingers, a head, blah, 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 whatever it might be. Now, we drew a monster with only 1 head, remember that? And that's fine, but But we're going to extend it further. We need to have a monster with heads and noses. And as the lesson progresses, I think some of the more curious students might be like, "Wait a minute, I know what's going to happen," and it should encourage a lot of giggling in the class. I hope so. All right. So now once we've got that down, we erase the board, and now we move on to simply writing. Now I'm going to write these columns on the board. I'm going to go, all right, boys and girls, team number 1, team number 2, team number 3, team number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the kids are going to go, okay, cool. And then what I'm going to do is, as a teacher, I'm going to say, all right, student number 1, student number 2, student number 3, student number 4, ready, and go. And then they'll write down a word that I asked them to write down. So I say, all right, boys and girls, ears. And then they'll all write down ears. All right, good. Next student, write down toes. And then they'll write down toes. Okay? Now the idea is for us to then have all of the words that are over here. That is the idea. So the kids, you just leave the words on the board. It's a good practice for them to be able to do it. And of course, they're now memorizing. They're memorizing in the class time. And of course, the more they memorize, the faster they can all write it down. And so once all of the words are on the board, your board should look something like this. Bingo. Now, you will then say to the kids, all right, boys and girls, thank you very much. That's very cool. Here's a piece of paper. Now, you will give this piece of paper to your team. Now, hopefully, you can make it an A3 piece of paper, as big as possible, because this is, in fact, for the team. Team number 1, team number 2, team number 3, team number 4, whatever it is. And whatever the date is, 2233, whatever the date happens to be. And you've now given the kids a body, because they're going to now attach a monster to this. And the rules of the game of this are, the teacher's going to have a die, okay, just a die, da, 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 da. And the teacher's now going to say, all right, boys and girls, every one person in the team will have a chance to draw an item. So this is going to go from player 1 to player 2 to player 3 to player 4. And so, for example, the teacher says, all right, boys and girls, we have the dice, blah, 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 head. And we have one head. Let's just say, for example, all right, we're going to draw a big head over there. Then we're going to throw the dice again, and the word is noses, okay? So then the dice lands on 3 noses. Wow, we've got a head with 3 noses. Okay, so head is over there, nose is over there. And then we're going to choose hands, throw the dice, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we've got 6 hands. 1, 2, 3, maybe. 4, 5, 6. Now, what's going to happen is this, is that some teams are going to have 1 head, while some teams might end up having 3 heads. 3 heads, and when the dice is rolled, you might only have, for example, 1 nose. So the funny thing is, or the interesting thing about this activity is that your monster is going to be different from table to table, okay? And there's going to be a different number of mouths for every single table, different number of heads, legs, da-da-da-da-da. Which means that once the kids have finished their first monster, it's very easy to play this game again, because now they're going to make allowance for the possibility of having only 1 arm but 5 hands. Okay, so how are we going to do it? It's pretty easy. The teacher's going to say, all right, boys and girls, team number 1, you guys are heads. Team number 2, you are arms. Team number 3, you guys are hands. Team number 4, you guys are eyes. And so then the teacher rolls the dice. Blah, 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 blah. The number is 3. Oh my goodness me, on the dice, on the die. So it's team number 1 has a monster that has 3 heads. Team number 2, 3 arms, 3 hands, and then 3 eyes. All right, very cool. We're gonna play the game again. All right. This time we're gonna have eyes. So you throw the die. The die says 2. Okay, you guys have got, what was it now? 3 heads, but then 2 eyes, 3 arms, and then 2 hands. Da 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 da. And as we go along, the teacher selects the words on the board in the columns, and of course then each team has their own monster. All right. So teachers, I really do hope that you have some fun with that activity, and you're free to take a screenshot or make your own torso. This is now a torso. But yeah, please let me know how this activity goes. Please let me know how the techniques and skills that I shared with you in this clip work in your class. I'd love to hear from you. Good luck and happy teaching. See you again. Bye.